Hello, welcome back to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm Andrew Musgrove, joined by John Gibson, back off his holidays, nice and refreshed. He's had a lovely time away, brought back down to reality with a bump thanks to Newcastle United and their poor start to the transfer market, John.
Oh, I've come back to the living dead, haven't I? I mean, nothing happening. It's worrying, it's frustrating, and it bothers me immensely. I was wanting us, in an ideal world, Andrew, to come out of the traps like a 100-yard sprinter, to be out there, go bang, make a statement. We had a very bad transfer window a year ago where we left it to the death with Isaac, then panicked and just collected like playing cards, whoever was available will move it up. It didn't work. This year we were told a new outlook towards signings. We're not going to go for the top-notch guys. We're going to go for them just beneath there. We're going to be clever. We're going to be cute. We want signings in early, says Eddie when he was talking about it. Well, of course we do. But what have we got? We've got same old, same old. We had to make a statement because last season was a shuddering one. I mean, you know, we spent a lot of the second half of the season discussing whether the manager stayed in the job or not. We also were discussing who would go of the top-notch players rather than who we would get in. But we were told all would be right. We finished 13th. Sunderland and everybody's way ahead of us. We had to make, for me, a very early statement of intent. Here we go, we're coming out, we're going to sign good players, here's the start, because we've always started sluggish. What have we got? The only guy that's come flying out the traps is Anthony Gordon, and that's because he wanted the job done before the World Cup, so his future was settled for, and he had the big beasts in the background, and it turned out to be Barcelona in the end. But what has our response been? Without being harsh, the truth of the matter is that we've got a reserve goalkeeper and have been turned down by two guys, one of which has gone to Liverpool, Munoz, and the other guy went to Brighton. Now, we've been gazumped time and time again, last season and this season, but you could talk about being gazumped by rich elite clubs. We've been gazumped by Man City, Man United, by Chelsea, by Barcelona in taking Gordon, if you like, all top quality clubs. But we're now getting gazumped by Brighton, for goodness sake. You know, we have got to, after the season we've had, we've got to make a statement. We both said very early on, the important thing, I said, please don't, I used it in print as well, please don't make our first signing John Ruddy, because we need a statement signed. Nothing about the kid, who might be one of the greatest goalkeepers we've ever seen, and I'm glad to have him because we need a number two. But I wasn't far away when I said don't make the first sign John Ruddy, because we made the first sign the cover goalkeeper. And we need a statement signing. We really do. And we need the statement signing now.
Football's a fickle game, though. And this is a question for you guys watching and listening, and for you, John. Last week, had Munoz become a Newcastle United player, and we finished that week, and we went into the week that we're in now with João and Munoz having been signed for Newcastle United. Would you be sitting a little bit more comfortably?
I might be a little bit more comfortable, but I want to be more comfortable than that. I mean, this new policy, this is going to be the saviour of Newcastle. We've panicked because we got one transfer window wrong last year and have ditched a style of approach in the transfer market because of that one window that was wrong. Yet, you look at what our style of approach in the transfer market has brought us. It's brought us 2 Champions League finals, qualifying. It's brought us 2 Wembley appearances, and it's brought us one cup, domestic cup, first one in 70 years. So it hasn't been a total failure. Now, we're saying, well, we're going to be cuter. We're not going to go for the top-level players because, by the way, the top-level players who have decided that they've outstayed their welcome here, they want to go on, we're still selling them at a profit. Isaac's a profit. Gordon's a profit. Tonali, when he goes, will be a profit. Livramento, if he'd gone, would have been a profit. The injuries have messed up that I suggest. But we were still selling as a profit. Now, this new way of doing it, we're going to sign in players at 30 million or whatever, and we're able to sell them on as a profit, and that's what we'll tell them. By the way, this makes it a stepping stone, you know, which is an expression I hate, and I think a lot of people would. But it's how Isaac saws, it's how Gordon saws, it's how Tonali's seen us. This new system, is it going to work any better than the old system? And we're modelling ourselves on the clever clubs that have done it clever, like Brighton and Bournemouth and Brentford. That's fine for them, but this club's a 50,000 crowd club, and the highest finish has been 6. They normally finish lower than that. How do we expect to build on what we've already had, 2 Champions League, 2 Wembleys and a Cup, by modelling ourselves on clubs that are finishing 6 top or below? And by the way, with that model in place, we still haven't closed out our last 2 deals.
Does there have to be an acceptance or maybe a realisation of where Newcastle United are right now and where they want to be? You know, we're saying, how does this model work for Newcastle United? And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're essentially saying Newcastle United is a bigger club than Brighton and Bournemouth and Brentford. But some would argue that, you know, the money they did spend last summer didn't pay off. And yes, okay, when they signed Trippier, that was a big deal, that worked. But Bruno would probably come into the category of an unknown when he signed, and maybe harken back to the days of when you did sign a Bruno and a Botman who, you know, paid off pretty much straight away. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And although shooting for the stars is a good thing, and 2030 vision and all of that, but is the reality right now that Newcastle United probably are, you know, at very most, you know, a team that can finish between 10th and maybe 6th?
Why are we suddenly that team? We've twice finished in the top 5 to go into the Champions League. We've twice played in Wembley Cup finals, and we've once won a trophy. But that's not a bad record as starters. We're now saying, let's pull in our oars, let's be realistic. Why can't we build on that and continue? Yes, of course, be cute in the transfer market. It's early days in this transfer window. We may get it spectacularly right. We're not showing any signs at the moment of calming nerves. And by the way, I would include not just the nerves of Geordies, like say myself and maybe you and certainly other Geordies out there, but we're not calming Eddie Howe's nerves, because by Jove, he needs to get out the traps quick in August, and he needs the firearms to be able to do that.
It's the 2 issues, I guess, with this new seemingly transfer approach that they're going to follow, and I'm a big fan of it. If this is the case, you know, signing youngsters with potential, I still think you need to drop in a couple of experienced players, but I like the idea of that. I think the 2 big issues that they've got is, one, we're looking at a current Newcastle United squad that needs to be rebuilt and improved. Like, this is a big rebuilding job. 2, the pressure that is on this transfer window makes it very difficult to play the long game and say, okay, you know, give us a year, give us 18 months, and you'll start to see the, you know, the benefit of this new transfer approach. Because, to put it bluntly, Newcastle haven't got the luxury of time here. Ross Wilson, Dave Hopkinson, Eddie Howe, there was not the luxury of patience, and nor should there be after the season that's just gone. And that makes, I think, it even more difficult, not necessarily to sell the new approach, but to plead for a little bit of time to get it right, because they need to hit the ground running, you know, not this week, not next week. They needed to hit the ground running last week, and obviously the Munoz deal has just worsened the mood across the board.
Yeah, I mean, fans who thought we had a platform to build on with what we've achieved since the takeover, and it hasn't been bad. I mean, you know, if you go back to the Ashley years and think we're going to end the Ashley years and we're going to be in the Champions League two seasons, we're going to be in 2 Wembley Cup finals and we're going to win one of them, that sounds pretty decent. That's a good start, and it includes a cup. We can't suddenly take 4 steps back from that and say, right, we're going to forget all about that, and we're now going to go down a different path, and we're going to be a Brighton or a Bournemouth or a Brentford. You've got to leave the fans with hope. Leave the fans with dreams. Football is a sport for dreamers. I don't mean the people that make the hard decisions within the club. They've got to be realists. But us, the guys that are the lifeblood of the club, have got to be dreamers. You've got to be allowed to dream. You've got to be allowed to believe the impossible might happen, and you can see a way forward, and that your club's striving to find that way forward. I don't mean you've got to be reckless. I don't want us to buy £100 million players at that price, even if financial fair play, etc., allowed us to. But I do want us to leave some. At my age, I ain't got time as a Geordie to wait for long-term deliverance. Please, Newcastle United, would you like to give me some hope that I can live on, that things are going to happen in my time? I had it a year ago when we were playing 2 Champions Leagues and 2 Wembleys and won one of them. I thought, at least my Newcastle United now, I've lived to see them do terrific, and to fill us full of optimism and fill us full of dignity and pride. I don't want a 10-year plan now. We've seemed to have gone from we'll win the Premier League in 2030 to let's be a bit more cautious and let's be a Brighton or a Brentford. There is a happy medium. And, by the way, we haven't yet got that right. We've been down to 2 of the players we've aimed for, who are supposedly below the surface of what we might have gone for, we've failed to get. So are we going to continue to fail to get people at this level as we did last summer at a different level? Are we going to go down the same route again? Because we've got to get an awful lot of play. It's okay that Gordon's gone and we're sitting on a pot of money, but if we sit on 100 million in the bank, I've never known 100 million get you 3 points on match day, by the way. I've never seen your bank account, but there we get 3 points because we're a rich club, we've got 100 million. We're going to get another between 80 and 100 million for Tonali. Now, stick all that lot together, and there was the Isaac money, which we blew. We've got to start cooking.
How much of last summer is impacting, you think, this new policy? Now, obviously, last summer there was no Ross Wilson. David Hopkinson had been appointed, but he wasn't doing the job. Because it is a seismic shift from what we've known of Newcastle over the last few years. And again, I'm all for it. But do you worry that, I don't want to use the word knee-jerk, because I don't think it is that. I think it will have been properly thought out and properly planned. You know, the numbers crunched, but also from a footballing side, what can be achieved with this new direction. But it does seem, you know, it is a massive change. And do you worry that they've gone maybe too far? Because when I say they need experienced players in, I'm fully of the belief that that's going to happen. Like, for me, get Wan-Bissaka in, because I think he brings an experience that Newcastle United need, which then would allow you to go and get a 19, 20, 21-year-old on the other positions and just offer him that wise voice alongside the likes of Dan Burn, etc. But do I think they're going to splash £170,000 a week on Wan-Bissaka? No, I don't. And that is probably the biggest concern I've got, other than can they get the deals done? It is that lack of experience, because I do think Newcastle right now are lacking leaders and they're lacking experience. But I've got no faith that they'll go and get those experienced, wise heads, because I think they'll just be focused on trying to get the young guys through the door with mass potential, which again is fine, but it's got to be a balance.
They had to mix and match. They didn't have to go from this is our policy. And by the way, they got younger players in that policy, the original policy, when you got Bruno and you got Botman and you got Anthony Gordon, the original from Everton, etc., etc. And if it's a matter of, you know, you must sell and we're making a profit on all those.
But it was offset by Trippier, Burn, you know, it was offset by experience, wasn't it? So there was
Absolutely.
that balance.
Why have you got to suddenly say we aren't going to go for the top players, we're going to go for the next bunch? They're all going to be young men. There's like a ceiling of 26 on it. The reason we don't go for Bourne at West Ham is because he's 29. We take out our current attitude to the situation. you've got to mix and match. You don't have to go from one extreme to the other extreme and build a kindergarten of potential, because mix and match. Get some kids in, get some clever experience, get some quality. Give us a real platform to go on. What's going to be interesting, and I'm not meaning it's the ideal way to go, but what's going to be interesting this summer is at the end of it, looking at the results of Newcastle United and the results of Spurs. Spurs are going down the exact different route to Newcastle United. They're going down the route of, we have been an elite club who now have been on the bones of our backside for the last 2 years, fighting relegation. It's humiliating. We're building up under a new manager. We're going to go for proven Premier League players. And they've done that, haven't they, with a guy from Brighton. They've got Robertson in from Liverpool.
Sympathy from Bournemouth, which I think is a fantastic
Bournemouth,
signing.
which is a terrific signing. And they're looking at Tonali. They're looking at Rashford. They've gone down the route we've abandoned, because we've said we did that with Wissa and Elanga, and it hasn't worked. So at least so far it hasn't worked. Let's hope it does next season. But it spectacularly didn't work last season. So we're saying now that by and large, outside of, say, Trafford, we're not looking to sign players from here. We're looking to sign players from abroad. We're doing the exact opposite of Spurs. It'll be interesting to see, because the proof is always in the pudding. The eating of the pudding, so we'll wait and see what happens. But Newcastle, generally, they've got to give faith back to the Geordies. They've got to give us hope. They've got to give us something to lean on. They've got to give us oxygen, Andrew. We had no oxygen during Ashley. We've had plenty of oxygen since the takeover, and we've had seeds of real flourishing. With what I've been talking about. We want to build on that and make it better. But the season Newcastle United have just had put huge pressure on this season. Close season has got to be right. And the reasons put forward why it would be is Ross Wilson and Hopkinson we didn't have up and running last year. That's going to make a difference. Eddie loves them, so they're working in tandem. That's going to make a difference. Yes, Nixon's gone, but a lot of his authority had been diluted, so it's almost inevitable from his point of view that he would think, hey, I'm no longer a big hitter here, I'll go and be a big hitter somewhere else. So, yes, but it only all matters if they get this right. And I tell you what, I'm spouting here and as hot as the air is outside, but if I was Eddie Howe, I'd be sweating a little bit, because by Jove, does he need this window to go right? Because come August, it will not be about Ross Wilson, it'll be about Eddie Howe. And by Jove, after last season, Eddie Howe needs to get a few more fans back on side, and needs to be vibrant and bouncy and look as if he's in control of something that he is controlling, and it's not happening around him. And the only thing that'll give him that lift, if he's lost Gordon and Tonali to go with Isaac, the only thing that'll give him that lift is that if he's got these new people in who are going to lift the dressing room, lift the team, and we can all march again. And by Jove, if I'm making a plea for Newcastle United to do something this summer, he must be making that plea behind the scenes, because without that, he's a dead man walking. He needs it.
Most certainly. So a big thanks to our sponsors NordVPN and Saily. If you're about to jet away on your summer break, then these are two products that you're going to want to have on your mobile devices. We can offer an exclusive discount on both products. The links are in the podcast description box. You'll get 15% off your first eSIM with Saily and NordVPN. One subscription can be used across 10 devices. So support the podcast. Keep it coming to you guys for free. And you also get that added protection and connection with Saily and NordVPN. Hit the link in the podcast description box. You mentioned there, John, about giving fans hope, or giving us hope, but what about giving the players hope. I mean, you've done this job for a long time. This is a question that I posed to our audience on the Monday show. Is it too simplistic to say that the players see what's going on and they will be asking questions when they see Gordon going, when they see Tonali wanting to go? Or is it a reality through your understanding of how things work that actually, players don't really take too much notice of that, they kind of detach themselves for it? Or is there a real fear that Bruno will get off that plane in a month's time, hopefully with a World Cup medal if it's not to be England, and go, guys, like, what has gone on here? Been great, but I'm out the door. Now, do they need to sign players to boost the spirit of the players who are currently here?
Of course they do, without a shadow of doubt, because what happens when Isak goes and then is quickly followed? I mean, if Tonali goes, when Tonali goes, because he will, Newcastle in 12 months will have got rid of 3 absolutely top-class players, Isak, Gordon and Tonali. They'll have banked £300 million. And what have we got on the other side of the coin to say to young players like, say, Lewis Hall? You stay here, son, because we are going to win things and we're going to do things and we've got a real chance. They've got the money to go out and get people with. They've got the wiggle room because of what they've sold. You've got to give hope to Bruno. I mean, I'm a great lad about body language, and I saw, and it's not a genius, I think everybody did. I saw the body language of Isak after the League Cup final win at Wembley for the rest of that season. He didn't have to say, I want away. You could tell from the rooftops he wanted away. The way his body language was. And by the way, you saw that in Gordon. I saw it twice in Gordon. You saw it in Gordon when he almost went to Liverpool, and then they dragged him back mentally in fold, and then he went again, and it was only when, with hindsight, Newcastle did a peace deal with him. We'll let you go in the summer, but play well now, and I know they left him out the last 4, that his attitude changed, but his body language was, I want away. And Tonali's body language for me at times last season, he was horrible and indicated all was not well. And you know what? The body language I saw in Livramento was like that. Livramento is a Rolls Royce. He was all of a sudden making mistakes that the Gateshead defence wouldn't make in my day with Gateshead towards the end, before injuries of Man City were big in from then. He's an absolute Rolls Royce. He could see a move. We were a stepping stone. It's different from now, because with the injuries he's keep getting, who's going to pay 70 million for Livramento? You would for a fit Livramento, but how fit is he? But you've got to look. I never saw any trouble with the body language of Bruno or Hall.
Well, Fulham, people down at Craven Cottage might say he kind of didn't look very happy. Obviously, he was subbed at half time.
Of course, no, but it didn't look happy because of what was happening to him. But he didn't chuck the towel in. No,
not at all. And you just wonder, with someone like Bruno, who is a fantastic captain, what can they do? Because if he has a good World Cup, he's going to have suitors. Maybe, we're just speculating, his representatives might be trying to push him out to a bigger club where there's a chance of winning a title.
Yeah, you're right.
What can they do to make him stay?
I think, to a certain extent, he's an exception, because he's fallen in love with the club in the way you and I have, and 50,000 other Geordies who are on the terraces every home game. He loves the club like that. The Bruno, and all this. He's bought into that big time, and he loves it. However, there is always a however. And at this stage of his life, the next 12 months are going to be the big time for him. If he's going to get a move which is not from the other side of the hill, it would be in the next 12 months. A move that takes him onward and upward. He would want to stay here. You've got to give him as skipper a reason to stay and be happy, and you've got to give Hall, as a young lad with his whole future in front of him, a reason again to say, I'll continue to play for Newcastle. I was a fan of Newcastle as a kid through my dad. I want to do it here. Otherwise, Hall's going to look straight away and say, well, wait a minute, Isaac's gone and flourished. And he will flourish this season at Liverpool. Now he's got rid of his injury problems, I feel. Gordon has got Barcelona. Wow. Tonali has got a big move. People are bailing out. Who's coming in? If I'm Bruno or I'm Lewis Hall, and yes, I know you can talk about others as well, but I mean, for example, Big Dan Burn, at this stage of his life, at the club where he belongs, etc., he's not going to be agitating for away. And he's going to take a lot more on the chin than, say, Bruno and Hall are going to. But you've got to give these people a reason to say, do you want everybody to bail out on Newcastle that's got a future?
Is it also, I mean, we're going to play devil's advocate here, that had last season gone well and Newcastle qualified for Europe and Elanga and Waldemar and Wissad all hit the ground running, then coming into this summer, if you did indeed sell Gordon and Tonali, then it would hurt, but it wouldn't be too bad because, last summer's signings were all fantastic. And I guess the other side of that is, if we're saying it's down to kind of the season's performance and where they're finishing all of that, then again, that goes back to the Eddie Howe question, doesn't it? We're talking about transfers here, and you've mentioned it, come the start of the season, the focus won't be on Ross Wilson, it'll be on Eddie Howe. I just can't help but keep thinking about last season, and detaching it from transfers, because a lot of what went wrong was down to Eddie Howe and the way he set up the team, the players he picked, and that, how much of a knock-on impact does Eddie Howe's performance and where they finished last campaign have on, I guess, the summer transfer window, but also the mood going into the new season?
Oh, I mean, if Newcastle don't do the business this summer and we go into next season, Eddie Howe will be low on the snake's belly. He has already been that all of last season. And Newcastle are just compounding their problems, because within half a dozen games of next season, people will be saying Eddie Howe should be sacked. And if he is sacked, goodness gracious me, you're only 6 games into a new season. What do you do then? Are you going to give him... You either sack him now and get a new manager, or you give him the artillery and the weapons to have a good chance of doing the job next season. At the moment, if we were playing next week, we've got no chance, because Tonali would be scrambled because he wants to be away. Pope will wonder how important he is anymore, etc. And what have we got in? So I know it's early doors and there's a lot of summer to go, and that is reassuring to a certain extent. But we have a history of buying late. And by the way, the later it gets, Andrew, the more panic will set in, as it did last summer. If we are getting nobody and we're getting to the players coming back in July and all that, it'll be, right, who's available, knee-jerk again.
I think on Eddie Howe, in many ways he can't win, because if they have a good summer transfer window, instantly there's no excuse about the transfer window if he has a bad start to the season. But then if they have a bad summer transfer window, I still think, as we've discussed there, straight away you lose 2 of the 3 opening games of the Premier League season, and the pressure and the focus is on what Eddie Howe is doing wrong, not necessarily the bad transfer window. And I just think the uncertainty amongst the fan base, it just doesn't help anybody, and that's going to be an issue, I think, for Eddie Howe and the ownership. And I do fear for Eddie Howe, if I'm being brutally honest, no matter how the summer transfer window goes. I just think there's so much pressure on him as a person and as a manager that I do fear it only ending in a negative way. Yeah,
I can see that. And when you look at the start of the season, you start with Liverpool. We love Liverpool, don't we?
You couldn't write it, could you? They'd be the first game of the season.
And Isaac's first match back at St James's Park.
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to do Malcolm McDonald and score the winner? Oh, when Malcolm was transferred, totally different situation. Malcolm was loved and was forced out the club by Gordon Lee. But we then played Arsenal down there, and he scored a hat-trick for Arsenal, and we lost. And then he come up here and he scored up here, and Arsenal won again. Are we going to get that? Can you imagine Isaac coming here on the opening day and scoring the winner for Liverpool?
But the point about that, it's kind of just what I've referenced just in the last point I made, that going into that game, you want the full focus to be on making that a horrible atmosphere, getting on the backs of Munoz and getting on the back of Isaac, and everyone pulling in the same direction. But if they've had a poor transfer window, not everyone is going to be united. There's still going to be, maybe it's a minority, but there's still going to be, I think, a vocal minority who have concerns over Eddie Howe, and those who aren't shouting about it, they'll be trying to push it down, but it'll quickly rise to the surface. And right now, it just seems like Newcastle United as a club and as a fan base are on a dangerous cliff edge, and it's not going to take too much for fans to really lose it, because the mood's so low. And that again hypes pressure on why this window has to be so right. Forget for Eddie Howe, just for the fans, because instantly it impacts that first game. And the way to make sure everyone is pulling in the right direction and pulling in the same direction, singing off the same hymn sheet, and all those analogies, John, is by giving Eddie Howe the tools to work with. It's been a slow start. It's been a disappointing week with the Munoz deal falling through. But goodness me, that first game, I can't help but think about what the atmosphere might be like.
We talk about pressure. Liverpool up here with Isaac's first return, etc., and what they've just done with Munoz and what they did with Ekitike against us.
I forgot about him. Maybe back. I don't know.
Nicked him. So all that. And then, by the way, what's the second game? Spurs with all the new signings and Tonali. What if they've got Tonali?
Yeah, someone's not in our favour at the moment.
Somebody's got a wicked sense of humour in the computer with a wicked sense of humour. But there is going to be pressure. But hey, at a club like this, there has to be pressure. The people that's going to carry it at the moment is Ross Wilson now and Eddie Howe in August. The ones behind the scenes, the money men, they have got to start saying, hey, listen, let's go. We have no excuse to not perform in the transfer window if we sell Gordon and Tonali. Well, if we sell those two in this window, the money they bring in plus the money we had, we have no excuse not to do well in the transfer window for bringing people in.
Well, some excuses have already been put on the table. Lack of European football, the World Cup. Obviously, then you talk about wages and what, the appeal of London to some as well.
I'm sick of hearing those excuses, Andrew.
Do you buy any of them excuses?
No, I'm sick to death of hearing those excuses. We have permanently got excuses for not doing well. And I keep talking about Aston Villa, but they've got the same problems. But they've just won a European trophy and they're going in the Champions League and they've had a sell and they've got all the excuses we have. But they're pulling rabbits out of the hat. We have got to stop looking for excuses. There isn't European football, but there wasn't European football, was there, when we got Trippier and Bruno and people of that nature. There's still people out there, and that's why we're told, yes, we're going to be cute and we're going to go for the second tier of players, the ones that are going to be tomorrow's stars. They'll come. Well, will they come? And on Newcastle too cautious. Newcastle have got to blow people out of the water with transfers. They've got to go in quick. They've got to be decisive. They've got to do the deal with the club and with the player quickly and blow any opposition out the water. Here it is. You want the money in one go? You can have it in one go. If that is necessary to get the men you want. Because we've got a list, the length of our arm here, of people that have turned down Newcastle in the last 12 months, last summer and this summer. The list is never ending. They've turned us down. We're becoming, if we're not careful, a joke about just wait and see who Newcastle are trying to sign, and then we'll go and nick, because he must be a bit decent. Newcastle have had a good record in the transfer market, so we'll go and nick him. And it's easy to nick him.
I mean, the lack of European football is a massive issue, but if I'm Eddie Howe, I don't want that being put out there as an issue, because all it does is highlight how bad that season was. So that's a vicious circle in itself. And look, the list of players who have rejected Newcastle one way or the other is growing. Do you have any sympathy for Ross Wilson and David Hopkinson for the way the Munoz deal fell through? I mean, by all accounts, they were led to believe by his representatives that he wanted to join Newcastle United. They were literally just looking to set up the medical and get it done. It looks like someone somewhere potentially have maybe you could say played Newcastle United. Do you have any sympathy for the decision then at Newcastle over that?
Not a lot. You get the big money to conclude deals, and you live by the sword or you die by the sword. They might have got dealt a bad hand. They might have been unlucky. But I'm certainly, as a Newcastle United fan, am I going to have sympathy for Newcastle in general as a club repeatedly failing to sign people? No, I'm not. I'm frustrated by it. You live or die by what you do and what you do well. And you've got to go out and do it. And Ross Wilson has a terrific reputation. Although I tell you what, there's been one or two people that were Glasgow Rangers fans that keep phoning me and Gibbo saying, don't expect too much. They weren't too keen on him up there. That's life. That can happen in football. But that is what you're brought here to do a particular job. You've got a great reputation. I want Ross Wilson to be the greatest success, as I do with Hopkinson, that's possible. As I do with Eddie Howe if he happens to be Newcastle United's manager, because we need Newcastle United to be everything we want them to be. But I'm not going to have sympathy if we continue to fail and say, hey, you got a bit unlucky there, and etc., etc. Sorry, that's the world we're in. I want to see Newcastle United going in and nicking players off other clubs at the last moment, the way Liverpool's just done to us. And I accept that it's the big clubs that are destroying us at the last minute in the transfer market, until Brighton start doing it. And then it's not the big clubs alone. No, I mean, my sympathy is run out. Nice guys getting out. Tough guys get the prize.
Now, we are recording this on Tuesday morning. It may go out Tuesday evening, it may go out Wednesday morning. So just to cover our tracks here, John, if Newcastle United suddenly announce a signing on Tuesday evening, which I don't think they're going to do, I don't think they are close to any incoming at the moment, what does that do for your mood? From my personal point of view, obviously I would love it to be a significant incoming. Let's say it is, for this hypothetical situation I'm going to put to you. But then it's about the next one and the one after that, because quite simply, Newcastle United needs so much work on this squad that
Sure.
it's about building momentum. It's not about signing one significant player and then having a couple of days and having a break, which I'm sure they're not doing. But it's about consistently bringing and improving players to this squad, because again, I've said this so many times and people are getting sick of me saying it, the holes in this squad.
Oh, I mean, one signing ain't going to do, because you need a goalkeeper, you need a right back, you need a midfielder if Tonali's going, you need a centre forward, because we haven't got an orthodox centre forward that scores goals. We're looking for an outside left. I mean, there's 5 just mentioned off the top of our head.
Will they get them done? Will they sign those 5? Some would argue it needs to be 6, 7, 8.
Oh, I've just they're the 5 that are absolute imperative. I wouldn't stop there. And I don't think we'll get everything we want this summer. Numerically, I mean, just not quality. We don't know what the quality is going to be like until we see them. With a lot of them, we didn't know about Munoz that much before we were suddenly interested in him, and then we learned a lot more. We don't know. I'm not talking about the quality, but I'm talking about numerically. If we go in without a keeper situation, if we go in without a right back, because is Livramento going to be fit all the time? If we sell Tonali, yes, we've got Miley coming back, but he had a bad injury and we need somebody in there. Are we happy about our centre forwards? I mean, there's huge holes. There's got to be more than one. One won't make me satisfied. What one would do is make me feel relieved, because we ain't got a first teamer yet. We've got what we've got at the moment, and I hope the kid is a world beater and he's a Pat Jennings and a Gordon Banks and everything rolled into one. But what we've got at the moment is a goalkeeper to sit on the subs bench. That's all. That's all we've got through the door at the moment.
We mentioned there they need 6, 7, 8 players, and that is my personal opinion. In an ideal world, you get them through the door. But that is a lot, and the level they need to bring in as well is high. You know, it's not just about building a squad, it's about improving the first team. You know, as I said on the Monday show, that's a task that I don't envy at all of Ross Wilson. Is there any scope to kind of use that as an excuse and say, we understand how big of a rebuilding job this is, but you know, you've got to be realistic about what we can achieve in the space of 2.5, 3 months when the window's open and with the budget we've got? Or is the need to rebuild so important and so big, John, that you know there can be no excuses whatsoever? You know, at the end of the day, you're building a football squad, a football team to be successful. This is the reason you're paying money to do so. This is the reason the Public Investment Fund have come in. You know, yes, it's a big task this summer. Yes, it's a lot of players that need to be signed. It's a lot of money that needs to be spent. But that is what you have to do to be a successful football club.
Absolutely right. I mean, football is not about sentiment. It's not about understand. I mean, Burnley come up with Scott Parker and wonderful in the set a record for the number of goals they conceded, the least number, etc., etc. Now, the minute they come up, you think Burnley's not going to last here, and they go back down. You can say, well, that's expected. Scott Parker still gets a sack. Hull City will go back down in a year's time at the end of the coming season, but that would still produce a knee-jerk reaction. Life is life. It's harsh. Newcastle United need at least 5 players, probably need 8 this summer. I don't think we're going to numerically get that number, but we can't make an excuse. Well, this was a tough window and the World Cup got in the way and you know, there wasn't much time. Sorry, Newcastle United have resided over the running down of the squad this far. They haven't been cute enough. You don't let the squad run so far downhill that people want to bail out and others are too old and we're in a situation that we're in. You've got to be cuter. Newcastle weren't cute with Elliot Anderson. They didn't put a sell-on clause in. And then he's going to go for about between 100 million and 130 million now. And what are we going to get? Nothing. Because we didn't put... And by the way, it's no good saying, well, on the day it was done hurriedly at the last minute. That's an automatic thing with a young lad to put a clause in. We have not been cute enough with Anderson. We've not been cute enough. We've been reactive instead of proactive. The reason we need so many players now is that we have allowed the squad to run down to the bare bones it is now. So if we've been guilty of that, we've got to put that right. No excuses like it's been too odd. I'm sorry. We did that. We've got to put it right.
Yeah, I guess Ross Wilson, David Hopkinson would argue, obviously they weren't around when that Anderson deal was done and dusted, but it is one that's going to haunt Newcastle United for many years to come.
Eddie Howe and everybody else was around. I'm not hanging it on those 2 guys because they weren't here. I'm hanging it on the club. The club.
I'm going to ask you to make a plea to the owners and to the decision men in a moment, but let's just have a couple of quick fire questions, John. Sandro Tonali worth £100 million?
Yes, when he's now, I was tempted there and stop because to say no the way he's been playing, but I suddenly remembered him when he was fizzing. Oh, what a player! In today's market, is worth 100 million because Elliot Anderson's worth 130 million. In today's market, yes, or something very, very close to that.
Keep Will Osula at Newcastle United this summer?
Yes, because not because I necessarily think he's going to become Superman, but because we are so badly off for centre forwards that will score goals that we will need him. But I still want to sign a centre forward because we need Osula can cover us. But if he's going to play 38 Premier League games in a season plus 2 domestic cups, then we're in big trouble. But yes, I would keep him.
New contract for Tino Livramento?
No.
And a positive, because we've been a little bit negative over the last hour or so. So give me a positive.
We've still got Lewis Hall, who should get a new contract. We have got Lewis Miley, And please learn from what we did with Elliot Anderson and look after Lewis Miley, because he cannot be the next taxi off the rank. He is the local boy that's made good, like Elliot Anderson, etc., etc. He has got a huge future ahead of him. We've still got Bruno and we've still got Hall. Let us go out and give them a reason to come back in August with a bounce in their step, because they're looking forward to a new season. And you know what, Newcastle United, one of the first things you always do in business is look after your customers. Respect your customers, encourage your customers. That's why shops have sales. That's why they try to get people in. That's why they're courteous with them when they come in. Looking after and treasure the Geordie fans. They're special. You keep telling us they're special, but I don't see you looking after them at the moment. Look after them. Give them some hope. Give me some hope that something can happen. We're not arrogant. We don't demand success. We just want to see the possibility of success. That's all. Allow us to dream. Football is for dreamers on the terraces, not in the football club. Let us dream. Let us believe. Give us something to believe about, not blind faith. Give us something to believe about. That's in this way. I was saying towards the end of last season, the biggest part of this year is when we don't play. It's the summer. And this is it now. And every day that goes by and we pull the curtains up and the sun's shining, we think another lovely day. It's another day wasted if you're Newcastle United, if you do nothing in that day. Please, please give us some hope. Because if you don't, with Eddie in charge and no signings come August, it could be toxic. And we don't want to live in that world. We really don't. And it just takes a few crumbs, you know, for Geordies to get up and the pot's half full, not half empty. It doesn't take a lot because we want to believe. So give us some chance to believe.
There we go, ladies and gents. Let us know your thoughts in the comments about anything that we've spoken about today, about Gibbo's plea there to the owners, and hopefully the next time we record in a week or so's time, Newcastle United do have at least one significant arrival through the door. Everyone keeps asking, what is a significant arrival? Where it's someone that gets you off your seat, someone who can walk into that first team.
Not a reserve goalkeeper.
No, not a reserve goalkeeper, with all due respect to Joe, and someone that just instantly improves the offering at St James's Park at this moment in time. We'll wait and see what happens. Please hit thumbs up, please hit subscribe, dive into the comments, and I'll catch you guys very soon.